Greetings, co-Lightworkers.
We are Kristin, Angie, Robyn, Ava, and Toma, a group of mediums, intuitives, and healers.
We are the 5 Lightworkers.
And we are here as guides and students amid this great awakening.
Welcome to our show. So, can you explain what a solar flare is?
Solar flares are energies that are emitted from the sun, and this energy travels to the earth, and we feel the effects of this as it reaches the earth atmosphere.
Yeah, and so the solar flares can be scientifically measured, but they also affect us energetically and spiritually. These solar flares can also affect the Schumann resonance, basically the heartbeat of the earth, or the energy of the earth, and it's raising it. And so a lot of us feel these differences and these high energies happening. And currently the solar flares are really, really strong, and it can even affect electricity. And so of course that's energy, and we're all energy, so it affects us. And it's also, these are also bringing in more light codes. So it is helping us all on our path of ascension. Our DNA is literally changing.
Is it being upgraded?
Yes.
Over the weekend, Ava, you shared with us that you have an app that measures Schumann resonance. Is that correct? Yes. What is that app? It's
called Schumann Resonance. It's an app called Schumann.
Wow, who would have
thought? Woo! It's really hot in here. Okay. It's cool. You can check it and sort of get a gauge on what's going on energetically throughout the entire globe.
Now, does the app explain what's going on, or does it just show you what it's at right now?
It just shows you. But you can research a little bit on how to read it, because it'll show you it in different graphs, like frequency, the amplitude. But oftentimes you can just, even if you don't know all the words, you can look at it and see, oh, this is white, this is all white, or there's a blackout. And then you can compare it with the other colors. And so you can make it as simple or complicated as you want.
And I know, Ava, you were mentioning something about the 12 strands of DNA. You had a question about that. I think I might have missed it while I was channeling and writing. Okay. But I did get some information on that too, but maybe you can talk about that again.
So we were talking about how with the solar flares and the quickening of Ascension, that it is also activating the 12 strands of DNA that we all have. And a lot of it, so it's in there, it's within all of us, but it has been dormant. And we have so much other DNA. They often call it junk DNA, which it's not junk at all. But a lot of this is where epigenetics come in. And so that's where most of our expression lies. And so a big question I thought about was how do these 12 strands of DNA activate? And I think there can be many answers, and the light codes and the solar flares and the increase in Schumann resonance frequency is definitely helping activate that. And another part I saw is that our emotional state, we can think of the vibration of love and fear. And it seems that as we step more into this divine unconditional love state, it is a sort of rites of passage for upgrading our DNA, because as we upgrade, all of these other gifts that have been dormant in most of us are coming online. And it makes sense that it would be the vibration of love is a much higher, faster frequency than that of, say, fear. We are activating these 12 strands of DNA along with the light codes and the energy coming in. It's like an invitation. And there's something else that I would like to channel in the near future, but it was about the 12 strands of DNA and then 12 dimensions and somehow that connecting to 144,000. But I haven't specifically channeled that, just those two pieces of information have come in. And then also I wanted to note that it seems these ascension symptoms that we're talking about, if we enter a state of fear around that, I feel that that can make it more resistant to anchor in. Because I mean, I went through that in the past, all these heart palpitations, I did all the tests, nobody had an explanation. And I would feel almost panic, like what's going on right now? And then I'm learning about ascension symptoms and it makes absolute sense. So if you're feeling something, if you can take a moment to breathe and ground and tune in to what is this telling me? And I do believe that it is okay to get it checked out with a doctor. And it's just another perspective. And so it's a paradigm shift of looking at digestive issues, heart issues, headaches, dizziness, lightheadedness. What else? What other symptoms can there be?
Fatigue.
Nausea.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sinus
Irritated
issues.
Bowel
Yes.
issues. Mhm.
So, like a lot of variance in emotions.
So do you guys feel as mediums, healers, intuitives, do you guys feel any new gifts, abilities showing up now with these, a lot of DNA upgrades, anything like that for you?
I've noticed lately I've had a lot more visions. I've had a lot more vivid dreams. When I do Reiki, I'm being given more information, more healing tools, and that really amplified up a lot. What about you guys?
Yeah, you were given another healing tool.
Yeah.
You want to?
About
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago. So
What is
I triangle, and it was like a metal triangle, like something you would see from thousands of years ago. And it was, the metal was, it was just a thin piece of metal that was shaped in a triangle, and in the middle was a blue light, but it was like a blue crystal, and it lit up, and I could channel that energy of that blue light crystal and channel into healing people. So I've been using that blue light in my Reiki practice, and it has amplified it up tremendously. I can really tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And Kristin, when you did a healing for me, you used that. And as you use that, this sort of coincides with how the Ascension light energies coming from the sun are activating our gifts. So while you were using that, I suddenly started channeling and saw a blue energy. Now you're doing this remote, so I don't know what you're doing. I just suddenly feel this energy around my head and see that it's a blue light. And then my head, now I have come to realize over the past couple of weeks that when my head starts getting hot or like vibrating, somebody's trying to channel with me. Somebody's trying to give me a message. So when Kristin was doing that, I received a message from a 12th density being of the blue light. That's what they said. That they were opening up my third eye to help me see more clear the messages that are being brought to me. And then when I looked to see what Kristin was doing, when she sent me the results of the healing, at the very end, she wrote, "Oh, and I used my crystal." They wanted me to use the triangle to help your eyes. And I said, oh my gosh, okay, well, this is the channeling I got, and this is what you were doing at the same time. So I think it was brought to you from a 12th dimensional being, but that's kind of what's been happening to me over the last couple of weeks is realizing the messages are coming in fast and more clear for me in my head, basically, because now I'm hearing it and I'm starting to just get the messages. I'm able to write them down and tell others. Or I voice them into my phone because they just come randomly. If somebody asks me a question, I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know," and then I start feeling my head getting hot. So, yeah. And if you would like, I'll read as you guys were talking and asking the questions. I was getting that, and then I was writing down the words that they were giving me. They said solar flares. The solar activity is the connection from the source energetic energy released onto Earth to join the energies as one. With this connection, it creates a stir amongst the population that presents as illness or sickness, but in essence is the untouched parts of the human vessel opening to the source energy to help activate the DNA that resides within all people of the world to prepare them for the final light. In essence, one does not become sick, but receives an upgrade of energy that is replacing the older energy that no longer serves them. DNA is the remembrance of your soul's gifts, purpose, and light. As it is activated, your gifts become more available and prominent. So
That's amazing. This
Awesome.
real-time
So
channeling, everyone.
Yeah.
yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it made me question what you were saying is, so why do these symptoms occur? And as you were talking, I was thinking of clearing, how a lot of
Thank you.
things in our body are needing to clear out as we're upgrading. Why do these ascension symptoms occur?
Well, to answer your question, why are these activations happening? It's needed. It's time.
Mm-hmm.
We've been downgraded from what we originally were supposed to be. So it's about time, due time, and way overdue time to get back to the original plan. And really, the only way to go through it is, if you will, through the fire. You have to go through the hard times of getting rid of. It's like kind of going into your closet, like a spring cleaning. You have to go through what you have in the closet and decide what, I haven't worn this in a while, and throw this out. It's no longer needed. It's just taking up room and place in this closet. So if I take this analogy in as a person, like, what is it that I carry in my DNA, in my memory, in my emotional body, in my spiritual body that no longer serves me a purpose? So for me, a couple of days ago, I was grounding, funnily enough, with just my pet. I was playing with my pet, with my dog, and they're such grounding creatures. They just love doing that for us. They're so good at it. And spontaneously, out of nowhere, these memories, couple of memories show up from pretty early childhood, not very happy memories. And I'm looking at it, it's like, well, what spurred them on? And I'm thinking to myself, it must be the solar flares, because I didn't think about that at all within years. And it's no longer needed, nor does it serve anything good for me or in me. So it needs to come up and out. So what do you do in that instance? You send those emotions, those memories, the love, and you send yourself the healing love, and it sort of gets transmuted. So that's how I imagine it, why it's happening in the first place, how it's happening. At least it's happening like that for me.
With the ascension process, how I can see this happening is I compare it to my health journey. And a large part of that was, through my naturopathic doctor, he would always be detoxing me of certain things, whether it be heavy metals, which were actually very hard on my system, or infection. So when you go through a detox, you feel very, very sick. So you stir up those toxins, and it's almost like they activate, they lie dormant in your different tissues, whether it be in organs or tissues. And then when you stir it up, they become a little bit active, and it's very taxing on the body. And I also see that with Mother Earth, like, because she's going through the ascension at the same time that we are. And I think when we feel certain things, it's her reaction to her stirring up these deep-rooted issues that are deep within her, whether it be negative energies or toxins. So I can compare the two of them together. But as for what have I felt any changes since, because we did have a big activation last week, I feel that when I'm in the design process, the ideas are flowing a little bit more clear, but also just more images visually, and just things are coming in a lot faster. So that would be my experience in the most recently. And the automatic typing or writing, that's pretty new for me in the past few weeks. So yeah, that's how these ascension symptoms have affected me. But I do feel tired. Was feeling tired. I had a lot of headaches. And I'm not an anxious person, but I was feeling just little elements of anxiety. But I was able to identify that was the ascension, not me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Toma, when you were talking, I was channeling something as well that came in that said, which kind of goes along also, Robyn, with what you're saying, because I think it's what people are feeling as far as if you feel sick because of the, solar flares or the solar activity. I got that the energy construct of the old earth is being dismantled by the activation of the light of the people. The more activated we become, the more lower vibrational light dissipates, and our own light overpowers the world to bring us to ascension as one. So by those lights coming through from the sun, it's cleansing us to be able to hold the light that's activating us for the earth to ascend and for the earth to be able to anchor our light.
And you always you'll feel very sick when you're stirring up these, whether it be emotions or toxins, but then you feel so much better after. So you do have to sort of step through the process and take the rest or eat or get outside and ground while you're going through it. But know that you're going to be at like a higher frequency or just a higher state of health once you get through that ascension process.
Until the naturopathic world, we call that a healing challenge. And it just means that you get worse before you get better.
Yes.
So, yeah, for
totally.
Sure.
Yep. That makes sense. We all made contracts to ascend, whether or not we know that that's what it is. So those of us who made the contract to ascend but don't realize it yet are going to ascend anyway because that was contracted. That's the message I received, that whether we know it or not, you made the contract to do it. So you're going to probably go through the ascension. But the other thing I received too, Ava, was the 12 strands of DNA. The DNA within those that hold it, starseeds, are being activated now to remember their light and their purpose. They have been dormant because of the construct of the 3D. As one starseed activates, another activates, and so on until all come online. It has been a contract written amongst the starseeds of the earth in order to transmute the lower vibrations and bring the ascension or final light to the world. And I also got that 12 strands is related to 12-dimensional light beings. And then the other thing I got was, in order to get activated, aside from the solar activity, is knowing and connecting to your own cosmic star family can activate your DNA, because they'll come in to help activate you further because you're also inquiring and looking. So just doing that in and of itself, and also being near others that are already activated can activate you. So those were the things I got as you were talking.
Yeah.
I picked up the knowing a few years ago that when we are activating each other, so you're sharing those light codes with other people. And I think that's why the whole lockdown happened, so that we wouldn't be amongst other starseeds or people sharing the codes. It was to prevent us from doing that.
And look how that backfired pretty
Yeah, big time.
Yes.
Backfired.
Yeah, because we went within, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We couldn't go out, so we had to go within. Thanks.
Right.
yeah, that really resonates with what you said about the contracts and how it's going to happen. And I think what the clarity I got as you were talking is that, say we enter a state of fear or a lower vibrational energy, well, we're just going to make the process more messy and uncomfortable. So it's like, well, I'm picturing, if you can either drag yourself along or just go with the flow. So be in resistance or allowance. And I'm curious to get your guys' input about Ascension. And I have a perspective that all souls are on this path in varying degrees. Now, as Lightworkers and Starseeds, we're like the way showers. And so the people, even those that commit really atrocious crimes and acts, I see are kind of under this haze of dark forces, or like the draconians, or you name it. And so a lot of it is, I think, remembering who you are. But I see everybody on this path. Of course, some are leading the way more so. What do you guys think about that?
I see the same thing. I agree with you 100%. And I think a lot of those people who maybe do those devastating, terrible things, like you said, are under the forces of something else. Somehow along the way, maybe were in a weakened state where they were able to have been under the control of something else and didn't reconnect with their light at some point. So my guides always tell me to connect with your light, because that will take you basically to the light and just will help open you up and awaken you more to your truth.
I think what happened was that when people experienced hardship, some people would turn to vices, perhaps alcohol or, those addictive substances. And that helps the dark forces stay in control. So if you could go through the hardships without using the vices, I think you stay closer to your light.
Yeah. And if you have gone down that path, you can always reroute back home.
I totally agree.
I agree too.
Absolutely.
And something I try to practice. I mean, I'm certainly not perfect at all, but speaking to the light within others, even if there's just a little bit of a pinpoint of a light within somebody, if you can speak to that light and see that light, because sometimes people, if you reflect it to them, it sort of illuminates something or maybe helps spark something within them.
Yeah.
Can I share one quick thing? Several videos ago, we talked about red rooming, and somebody was a little, well, maybe more than a little rude to me over the past few days. And I'm like, well, I'm really upset about the situation. I think I would like to red room. So I told my angels I'm going to red room. I put that person in the red room. And as soon as I put that person in the red room, I saw how they felt in that moment. Well, they were rude to me, which is not very excusable, but why they acted the way that they acted. And instead of being, shouting at them, in my red room, which is a safe space, like, oh, you were rude to me, you shouldn't have said that to me. I almost started crying for that person and started feeling like, okay, you were afraid. I forget what was the situation, but like, you were afraid, you were feeling guilty, and that's why you did what you did. It still doesn't excuse your behavior, but like just seeing that light within. So it totally backfired on me on wanting to red room, but
I don't think
But
it's
how beautiful was that, that
Yeah.
you were able to see their perspective? That is absolutely beautiful, Toma.
I think what's happening, Toma, is you can see through the programs. You can see that they're running a program and you're not taking it, therefore you don't take it personal. Like you remove the emotion.
I still ended up taking it personally. We had to resolve it within a couple of days because it was just still, because it's still 3D.
You had to address it.
I had to address it. I had to address it in a different way that I originally had planned it, I guess.
You can address it from love instead of...
Yes.
And understanding.
Instead of, hey, you were super rude at me, it's like, all right, well, how can I help you? And it's like, oh my God, this is a little different than I wanted it to be.
With great power comes great responsibility, because, as we awaken and ascend, we become more aware of our own negative thought patterns and behaviors, and it's kind of like, ooh, you're more aware of it. And so, I mean, we're all a work in progress, but I think that's beautiful. And just want to say, anybody that's wondering what red rooming is, it's a energetic thing. Toma's not putting somebody in a room physically. Go back to our first video and think about this exercise. What you were saying, you know what it reminded me of? Near-death experiences. When there's a life review, people see the perspective. It's like empathy on steroids. It's like super empathy. And they see the perspective of everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's a really divine experience and learning experience. And that's just incredible that you were able to do that. And it's a great practice. I mean, that's a good reminder to everybody, and it can be even sometimes the hardest when it's somebody that you're really, really close to, or if they hurt your feelings. And if you can do what you did with the red rooming, or step a little bit outside and see if you can enter that place of empathy of, what's going on with them? And like you said, it's not excusing what somebody is doing to you. But if we can understand a little bit better, I think that makes a huge difference. So that's incredible.
Meet somewhere in the middle, I think. It's like, I see you. Let's rectify the situation so nobody's rude to anybody. Nobody needs to be disrespected, but I see where you're coming from. So did someone mention, Ava mentioned junk DNA, which I quite loathe that particular phrase, junk DNA. I mean, how something as important as DNA may be unidentified, but how could something that's our genetic makeup be called junk DNA? So I am quite upset about that wording, but it is what it is. Anyways, what do you think this junk DNA might actually be? Is it our gifts? Is it something just like mind related? Is it bodily related? What do you think that might be? Anybody getting any messages?
I think it's all of the above. I think it's becoming our highest potential.
Well said.
Well said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is part of our soul's cells and remembering who we are, because under the construct of the 3D, we have not been allowed. Well, I'm saying that like we're victims. We contracted to be here in this time. However, it has dimmed who we are. So yeah, I agree with Kristin. Like, it's all of all of our gifts, all of our light, all of our purpose. The DNA is the essence of our light and who we are. And we can connect to that.
So it's like turning that DNA on, like those solar flares would be activating and turning portions of that DNA on, and the remembering. So we're remembering our purpose for this lifetime and all the other lifetimes, and we're sort of incorporating the we that we are off planet, not in this life, and combining all of that together to be our potent
Highest potential.
highest potential, most potent self. Yeah. So are you guys seeing any gifts that are starting to plug in for you that's newer things due to these activations?
Yes, I noticed that a lot more of my intuition, or I guess psychic senses, are really coming online a lot more. And it's interesting because it's kind of effortless, and it's happening in moments where I'm not trying, I'm not reaching for it. In the recent days, I just knew things, and then it was confirmed, which is always nice. It's not necessary, but it's helpful when things are confirmed. So I think that's absolutely related to these light codes and the solar flares coming in. And yeah, what about you guys?
Yeah, same here. Like I said, just the biggest thing is that I'm able to access much easier suddenly questions that are being asked. It just suddenly comes on. If somebody asks a question, I'd be like, and then all of a sudden, oh, this is why.
I'm with you, Angie. Sometimes I don't know the information until somebody asks me a question. It's like, and then all of a sudden I know. It's like, did I always know it, or what? Or just, it's pretty funny. But I think intuition is definitely coming on very heightened. So just looking forward to all the other things that might come on.
And I feel like since the 5 of us have been together, when we text, it's like on a daily basis, we're all putting these puzzle pieces together of, I had this experience, but then somebody else has something to say about that, and it activates all of us on a daily basis. And I think that is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like this. Yeah.
I agree, Kristin. But also what I've noticed that when I'm doing my design work, I'm frustrated with the technology because I find it limiting to convey what's in my head. And then I just realized this weekend is that I'm remembering. I'm remembering that we used to create with our inside our mind, and it would happen. So that was a great revelation for me.
I know you have a lot of Arcturian roots, but I also recently have been thinking about Atlantis. Yeah, you just have some energy from
I think we've been through all of those ancient civilizations. So maybe there's something in that I'm clearing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I see that's a beautiful thing. I mean, you just codes,
the water.
design code, these activating codes that you produce.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and so that there's a lot to look forward to for everybody, you know.
Like telekinesis, teleportation, telepathy, white magic. I don't know. What else is out there?
I feel like there's not going to be any reason to heal because we're all going to be in alignment. We're basically going to be already healed.
And so that'll free up more energy for these realms and other abilities that is within everybody.
Thank you for joining us today.
Let us know your thoughts, questions, and requests.
If this content resonates, please like, share, and subscribe.
Hit the notification bell to be notified when we drop a new episode.
See you in another dimension.